The alarm rang before sunrise. The small apartment smelled of last night's coffee and hope that never seemed to leave. Daniel got up quietly so his daughter, Lily, could sleep a few minutes longer. The walls were thin, and the sound of traffic outside mixed with the soft breathing of an 8-year-old who was his whole world. He looked at her school shoes by the door. One had a small tear. He sighed and whispered to himself, "Another week, then I'll buy new ones." He didn't say it with sadness, but with the steady promise of a man who never lets go. Daniel was once an engineer in a good company. Then came layoffs, bills, and the long silence that follows when two people stop believing in the same dream. His wife had left 3 years ago, chasing a life that didn't include the constant math of rent and groceries. She sent birthday messages at first and then stopped. Daniel didn't have time to hate her. He had a little girl who needed him to smile. He packed Lily's lunch, peanut butter sandwich, apple slices, and a note that said, "You're my star." He left it folded under the lid every day, even when she pretended not to care. At 6:30, he tied her shoes, zipped her jacket, and they walked to the bus stop. He waited until the yellow bus turned the corner. Only then did he breathe again. His first job started at 7. Delivery routes all over the city. He carried boxes heavier than his past, but he never complained. Sometimes people gave him tips, sometimes not. He saved every dollar for rent and for Lily's drawing classes on Saturday. By the time the sun dipped low, his second shift at the diner began. Grease, laughter, orders shouted, and the smell of fries that followed him home. The apron strings cut into his waist, but when he imagined Lily asleep with a full belly, everything made sense. One Friday afternoon, Lily's teacher sent a note inviting parents to a small award ceremony. Daniel read it on his delivery route and smiled. He knew she would win something because she always tried her best. He planned to take a half day off, even if it cost him. The next week, he arrived at the school in his work uniform, dust still on his hands. The parking lot was full of polished cars and parents dressed for photographs. Daniel walked in quietly, holding a small bouquet he bought from a street vendor. Inside the gym, balloons floated above the stage. Children sat in neat rows, excitement buzzing like electricity. When Lily's name was called for most caring student, the teacher smiled but hesitated when she saw Daniel. She whispered to another parent, then said aloud, "It's so nice when families can take time off to come." The tone was polite but sharp. Daniel smiled anyway and walked forward. Lily ran to him, hugged his legs, and took the flowers. Her eyes glowed. The crowd clapped, though a few people whispered about his uniform. One father chuckled and said, "Must be nice to leave work early." Daniel ignored it. He stood tall and proud, his daughter's small hand in his. After the ceremony, Lily told her teacher, "My dad works 2 jobs, so I can be here." The teacher froze, realizing her mistake. Daniel just nodded and said, "She's the one who works hardest." He turned to leave, not angry, just tired in a way that words can't fix. That night, Lily insisted on cooking dinner, macaroni and cheese with too much pepper. She said, "Dad, you know why I got that award? Because you help everyone, even me." Daniel smiled and said, "That's the deal, kid. We take care of each other." When Lily went to bed, he found her drawing on the table. It was a picture of a man holding a little girl's hand under a big golden sun. At the bottom, she had written, "My hero." He touched the paper softly. In that moment, all the heavy things in his chest melted. Months passed. Daniel got promoted at the delivery company. Not much money, but enough for a second-hand car. He still kept the note Lily drew pinned on his fridge. Every morning when he left for work, he looked at it and whispered, "Still showing up." One winter morning, the diner owner asked him why he never took a day off. Daniel said, "Because someone is always waiting for me." The owner looked at him and said, "You remind me of my father." They both laughed and went back to work. Years later, Lily stood on a graduation stage, the same gym where her father once stood in work clothes. She looked out and saw him sitting in the front row, wearing a clean shirt, still holding a small bouquet. When her name was called, she walked straight to him, hugged him, and whispered, "We did it." He said softly, "No, kid, you did it." The crowd clapped, and Daniel finally allowed himself to cry. Not because he was sad, but because he had kept his promise. He had never stopped showing up. That night, they sat on the roof of their apartment, watching city lights flicker like small hopes. Lily said, "Dad, what's the secret of being strong?" Daniel thought for a while and said, "Just keep showing up, even when nobody sees you. One day they will." The camera of life pulled back slowly, a man and his daughter under a quiet sky, laughter rising above the noise of the city. Sometimes heroes wear uniforms. Sometimes they wear tired smiles and carry lunchboxes. And sometimes the greatest love story is between a father and his child.